How's it going, brother?
Oh, oh, good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Oh, good. How are yourself?
Yeah, well, praise God, man. I'm doing good as well.
Amazing.
Super excited to chat with you. Do you want to say your claim real quick?
Yeah, so you're quoting Quran 1094 to the prior guest, correct?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time for me?
You are quoting Quran chapter 10, verse number 94, correct?
That's one of the ones I quoted. Yes.
And the way you quoted it, you said that the Quran is telling Muhammad that if he's in doubt to go to the scriptures, correct?
It said he's not to go to the scriptures.
If he's in doubt to go to the scriptures, right?
Yes, yes. It says if he's in doubt, go to the scriptures, but it also
Amazing.
extrapolates on what the scriptures are. In Surah 547, he says that those scriptures being referenced are indeed the Gospels and the Torah, and that's also in Surah Al Imran 3:3.
Can you quickly go to Quran 1094? Let's read it together.
Yeah, Quran 1094.
Yeah, let's see what it actually says.
Yeah, again, I don't speak Arabic, so if you want to, correct the translation I have, I'm all for that. But right now, I'm just going to read it in English because that's all I know.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, if you are in doubt, in parentheses, O Muhammad, about which we have revealed to you, then ask those who have been reading the scripture before you. The truth has certainly come to you from your Lord, so never be among the doubters.
Amazing. So the reason why I asked you to repeat it is because there's going to be a very clear distinction between saying go to the scriptures and go to those who read the scriptures. Why? Because the Quran.
So that's why I put it in conjunction with the other two verses.
If you just let me know my point and
You're right. You're right.
Now, when the Quran mentions that and tells Muhammad that he is in doubt to go to those who read the scriptures, historically, how do we know who the Quran is talking about? How do we do that?
What's that?
So who do you think the Quran is talking about when it says to go to those who read the scriptures?
Yeah, probably the religious authorities of the time, or those that Muhammad trusted about the scriptures, such as the gospel or
No.
He's going to those authorities. He's not going to the actual scriptures in verse 1094. But there's other verses that I brought up as well that talk about the Torah and the gospel being authoritative.
Amazing. So when you mention 1094, the specific people that are going to be quote unquote mentioned as those you should refer to, it's specifically going to be those rabbis and Jews and Christians who converted upon seeing Muhammad in the scriptures. So this isn't a blank statement telling Muhammad to go to any random Jew or Christian. It's specifically telling him to go to those who read and accepted your prophet in the scriptures. So that's why I said it's important to make that distinction.
It actually doesn't say those who have accepted. It just says those who have been reading the scriptures.
Amazing, which is why we know that the Quran is a book that was revealed over 23 years. And we know that every single verse has reasons for revelation, also known as Asbab al-Nuzul. And if you bother to look at any exegetical work, such as Muqatil bin Sulaiman, Ibn Kathir, Ibn Abbas, they all mention that those who read the scriptures is specifically referring to people like Abdullah bin Salam, who converted upon seeing the Prophet Muhammad in the scriptures. So unfortunately, because we are people of the Sunnah, we interpret the Quran upon the Sunnah, we're going to take the exegetical work to know the historical context of the revelation. Which means that we know that it's not referring to any random Jew Christian, it's specifically referring to those who saw the Muhammadan scriptures.
Yeah, okay. Again, and this, I included it in conjunction with two other verses.
So now let's move into the next verses. What's the next ones?
Surah 547. It says that we should judge by the gospel and what has been revealed by Allah in the gospel.
And how does the Quran author define gospel?
How is it authorizing it?
No, how does the Quranic author define what the gospel is?
I know you have to let me know. Is it the Injil?
Yeah, I mean the terminology, what it actually means. So specifically going to be referring to what was wrote to Jesus, meaning what Jesus spoke and what he preached and the prophecies that he made about the kingdom of God coming in Matthew 21:43 and so on. However, it's not going to be specifically the Passion narrative. Why?
Well, that's interesting because that's actually not right, because it throws it alongside other scriptures such as the Torah. So it's obviously not saying just what Jesus said. It's saying check it with the scriptures of the gospel and of the Torah.
So host, I don't think you're tracking. When it refers to the Injil, so the term Torah is going to be equivocal, which means that it's going to be referring to either what was originally given to Moses or what they had in the 107th century. However, Injil is specifically, as the Quranic author defined it, is going to be what was revealed to Jesus, meaning that the Quranic author doesn't believe that a biography of Jesus is what was given to Jesus. Now, the reason I'm saying this specifically is because do you agree that the Quranic author makes conscious edits of the scriptures?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we can get into that as well.
Okay, so you agree that although the Quranic author confirms the scriptures, he has no issue in doing conscious edits, correct?
Oh, I was referring to actually how the Quran edits itself. Sorry, no, yeah, I would agree. He also does contradict the scriptures. Agreed.
Yeah, no, I'm making a distinction, not just contradicting, but specifically making polemics against what the people believed that he believed were from the scriptures. So, pretty much simply put, do you believe that the Quranic author believes that the Quran clarifies the previous scriptures?
Yeah, I would say so, yes, but also that's a false basis of what you're building that on. I'm not saying that he didn't correct it. I'm saying that there's a contradiction in giving authority to the Gospels and to the Torah, and then trying to go in and then change things. Like, in Surah 4:157, where it says that Jesus wasn't crucified. I'm not saying that he didn't believe that Jesus wasn't crucified. What I'm saying is you can't give authority to the Torah, which prophesies about the crucifixion of Christ, then to the Gospels, which say Jesus was crucified and that he was also God, and then to have the Quranic author go in and then say, you know what, actually, I don't think that's how it happened. I'm saying it's a contradiction within itself.
Yeah. Again, so when you mentioned the prophecies of Christ and Christ claiming divinity, that's fine. We can get into that later. The point being is that you just admitted that the Quranic author has no issue in confirming the scriptures and consciously editing them, correct?
Yeah, oh no, totally. He definitely edits and then also confirms their authority.
Amazing. Yeah, what do you mean by confirm the authority exactly?
He says that Allah has revealed the things within them.
Yeah, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that the Torah, in the specific sense that was given to Moses, was revealed. We agree on that. How does that follow that because the Torah was once revealed, that it must be authoritative in the 7th century? I'm confused.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble understanding. Say it one more time. There's a little bit of lag.
Yeah, let's try one more time. So, how does it follow that because the Quranic author states that the Torah was revelation given to Moses, that it must be authoritative in the 7th century? Can you tell us?
No, he's not saying that it's the copies that they have in the 7th century. He's saying the original manuscripts of the Torah and of the Gospel were indeed authoritative and revealed by Allah. That's what is being stated there. I think it's really clear.
So
you have to do it.
You're not following. I understand your point. I know that the Quranic author says that the Torah and the Injil are revelations. I don't negate that. I'm saying, how does it follow that because the Quranic author believes that the Torah was revelation at some point, that it must be authoritative in the 7th century?
So are you saying that Allah's word falls away and changes?
Of course, and if you quote chapter 6, verse 115, I'm going to bake you if you want to go there. No issue.
Allah's word passes away and changes is what you're saying.
Yeah, the revelation can change. You want to go to chapter 6, verse 115?
No word.
Yeah, God's decree can change, and if you go to chapter 6, 115, I'm going to bake you. I'm letting you know from now.
Say it one more time. Say it one more time.
I'm assuming you're going to go to chapter 6 of the Quran, verse 115, where it says that God's words can be changed.
Yes, Surah 6, 115, you said?
Amazing. Let's go to it and let's read it together. Here we go.
All right, I'll read it for you. You ready?
Yeah.
And the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. No, none can change his words. That just disproves your point. Obviously, no one can change his words, but you just said that they can change and pass away.
Thank you. Can I respond now?
Yeah, go for it.
Now, the beginning of the verse specifically mentions, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّكَ, and the word of the Lord have been fulfilled in truth and justice. Now, me and you both know that the term word isn't univocal. It's going to be equivocal, which means that depending on the context is going to have different definitions. Now, the term word here, the kalima, can either refer to God's decree or specifically God's revelations. Now, how do we know which one is which? We know that it can't be revelation because the specific verse you just quoted bakes you. How does it bake you? It specifically mentions that the word of Allah has been completed in truth and justice. Now, we know when chapter 6 of the Quran was revealed, the Quran wasn't fully revealed, which means it can't be referring to revelations. And also by the consensus of the Mufassirin, such as Ibn Abbas, Ibn Kathir, and Muqatil bin Sulaiman, This is referring to God's will and his decree, not his revelations. So now what?
But you're saying that the decrees are so the decrees can't change is what you're saying.
Yeah, God, whatever God wills can't change. That doesn't negate that the scriptures being revealed can't change.
So when the gospel was revealed, did Allah will that Christ was crucified? Did he reveal that? Was it his decree that the gospels would read that Christ was crucified?
What do you mean?
Did Allah decree that the revelation found in the gospel accounts would say that Christ was crucified?
Again, you're assuming that the passion narrative is the gospel, sir. We don't grant that. The passion narrative is not, would it be part of a logia or outside of what the logia is? It would be a narrative, correct?
It would be a narrative?
So do you know the difference between a logia and a narrative?
Go for it. Tell me.
A logia would be a sayings gospel, and the narrative would be the sayings plus the narrative by the apostles and the disciples. The Injil is specifically going to be a sayings gospel, and the passion narrative that the Injil describes in the Quran isn't a sayings part. So isn't a narrative. It would be a narrative, and is not a saying, which means that the Quranic author doesn't believe that the passion narrative is the Injil.
Yeah, but brother, I'm struggling to follow here. I might just be dumb, but I'm not really seeing.
I'll break it down. No issue. You said to me that God's words can't be changed, correct?
Yes.
I specifically made the point that the change in God's words is specifically referring to his will and his decree, correct?
Specifically referring to his decree. I agree.
Yeah. And then you said to me, what didn't he decree that the Injil is going to read that Christ is crucified? That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying that the passion narrative that you quote in the crucifixion, according to the Quranic author, isn't part of the Injil. Why? Because according to the Quranic author, the Injil is a logia.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a strange claim to make, though, because, again, we're throwing that authority out the window that was previously given to it in the other verses. So you're saying...
Can you just clarify?
Hold on, one second.
Go ahead.
Let me finish my sentence. You can clarify after. So if you're going to say that something has authority and then not explain any further outside of that and say, it has authority except... No, it just says that it has authority. And then as soon as something changes, you do these mental gymnastics through these loopholes to say, what? Well, no, it was a decree, not, what exactly what was revealed. But no, it says that the Gospels, as they were revealed through the gospel writers, that was the decree of Allah.
What are you talking about? What are you doing? Host, I'm gonna need to lock in real quick. Do you concede that chapter 6 of the Quran 115 isn't specifically about revelation but about decree and will, according to the consensus of the Mufassirin that we have?
Do I concede to that? I mean, no, not really. I haven't really provided too much concrete evidence, but I'm willing to play along because I still don't think that you're actually making a solid point using that presupposition.
I mean, you haven't... Okay, so what you did, you repeated the point about the scriptures being authoritative in the 7th century. And this is the same exact question that I asked you and you never answered it. How does it prove that because the Quranic author refers to the Injil and Torah as original revelation, that it must be authoritative in the 7th century? You didn't answer it. And I asked you, so you quoted 115 about the words being changed, and you thought this was about scriptures, and I corrected you, and you can't answer that as well. So now where do we go from here?
I'm answering it for you right now. So I'm not talking about the certain disciplines given. I'm talking about the word of Allah, the decrees that were revealed through specifically the narrative of Christ's life. So when Allah decrees and reveals something through the Gospels, and he says, look, this guy Christ, he died on a cross, you can't take away that authority in the future by saying, oh, well, Allah's word changed, but it can't change. That's not how it works.
What's your name, by the way? How can I call you?
If Allah revealed the gospel, that means that it is his decree what the gospel says.
That's fine. How can I refer to you, by the way? What's your name?
Noah works great. How can I refer to you?
You can call me Muslim. Now, Noah, I already answered this. You're bringing the objection. Again, I'm going to repeat it slowly. You brought the objection that if God decreed the Injil, he also decreed the event of the crucifixion, correct?
Yeah.
Now, I already answered this, and I repeated it twice. Can you please still man the position that I gave you refuting this?
Yeah, you're saying that it's not actually that part of Allah's decree wasn't including the narrative because the Quran goes back and say that that wasn't part of the Injil.
No, I'm saying that the passion narrative isn't the Injil. Point. Not that part of it is and part of it isn't. I'm saying that in order for the passion narrative to be part of the Injil, you would need to show me a Quranic verse that qualifies the Injil to be something outside of what a logia is.
You're saying a word. Is it passion narrative?
Yeah, passion narrative is the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So the Paschal narrative, is that what you're saying?
Passion narrative.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard that term before. So,
bro, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it easier.
Oh, passion narrative. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
Passion. Can you hear me? Yeah. So according, for example, to Matthew 23, when Christ confirms the oral law of the Pharisees, was that an absolute confirmation or a general confirmation, according to you?
Well, how does he confirm it? Let's pull up the verse before.
Let's read it together, actually. Let's read it.
What's the verse?
Matthew 23, 1 and 2.
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The scribes and Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. So do and observe whatever they tell you, but do not what they do. For they preach, but do not practice."
Which translation?
That was the ESV.
That's fine. But other translations specifically mentioned that you should follow everything they tell you. I believe NIV and KJV should say that.
Well, KJV is a forgery, but I can pull up the NIV for you.
Yeah.
Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful and do as they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach."
Amazing. So when Christ is telling that they should follow what the Pharisees teach, meaning when they teach the Torah, is that an absolute confirmation or general confirmation?
No, it's an absolute. It's talking about submitting to religious authorities, which is then repeated throughout Hebrews 13:17 and 1 Timothy 3:15.
Amazing. So Christ is telling the people that whenever the Pharisees are interpreting the Torah, you should follow everything they teach, correct? Mm-hmm. Amazing. Did the Pharisees teach a unipersonal deity or a multi-personal deity?
Well, that's actually interesting because we actually see through certain tribes that they do talk about multi-persons, especially in reference to the term Elohim. But I'll grant you this: during that time, they were denying that there were multiple persons.
Okay, so although the Pharisees taught a unipersonal deity at the time of Christ, Christ had no issue in confirming what they taught, right?
Well, yeah, but this is later addressed by Christ, and he actually gives an explicit referral to this when he gets crucified. He talks about the Pharisees, and he says that they are now not the word changing, but the Pharisees are now contrary to all humans. So
I understand. I'm making a point that you can't claim it's an absolute confirmation in Matthew 23 if what they taught in some sense contradict to what Christ would have taught.
So you're missing the point of what's being said by Christ, though. So he's referring to them as hypocrites, the religious leaders.
I understand.
And then later, what Christ does is he takes away, through the crucifixion, the authority of the Pharisees and then gives it to the priests of the Catholic Church.
Amazing. Again,
whatever the Catholic Church is teaching through, Matthew 16:18, that authority must be submitted to. It is a universal claim that never changes. Persons in reference are what change.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but it's redundant to the point I'm making. You're saying that there was a power shift from the authorities of the Pharisees to others. I understand that. The point being that I'm asking about, specifically in the instance of Matthew 23, when Christ confirms everything the Pharisees teach, is that an absolute confirmation? If it is, it means that Christ confirmed the unipersonal teachings of the Pharisees. If not, then it's a general confirmation. So which one is it?
Well, keep in mind that he also says to be careful to do everything they tell you, but not to believe everything.
Again, that's redundant. I'm not talking about what they did. Understand? I'm talking about specifically what they taught.
You're not missing what I'm saying because you, again, didn't let me finish.